This is Drew here. I want to welcome you all to a brand new episode of Phoenix Down. This is Phoenix Down 122.0. I think it's 122. It may be 123. I am I'm not prepared for this because I am currently sitting in a hotel room and we are recording remotely again. But today I have with me Matt,
Hello, friends.
and yeah, we're starting a new game. Uh, and we were originally going to do Greedfall, and we still want to do Greedfall, but unfortunately, as you know, I am traveling for work, so we are going to be doing something portable. Um, Matt and I did the very scientific thing of rolling dice to try and figure out what game we were going to do, and we landed on Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey for the Nintendo 3DS. So we're playing the Redux version of this game. Um, Originally, just a Strange Journey was what it was called. Came out in 2010 in North America on the DS, and then they made a Redux, which was a kind of like a remake or a remaster of it for the 3DS that came out in 2018. Um, mm, we usually go with our history with the game in question. My history is that I actually played this in 2010. I um I was I was knee deep into the Shin Megami Tensei series, and because I loved Persona 3 and 4, I tried out some of the other ones like Digital Devil Saga and Nocturne, and they started making a bunch of these on the DS. So like Devil Survivor was one of them. Um, they brought over Soul Hackers, and then Strange Journey was one of them as well. And so I kind of picked this up like kind of day one because I was like, yes, I'm all in for Shin Megami Tensei games. And the first thing that hit me about it, I've noticed my levels are spiking because this headset that I'm using is garbage. So I'll have to apologize for that. But the first thing I noticed was, man, this is kind of hardcore. I wasn't used to this. This whole like first person dungeon crawling, um, make one false move and you're dead kind of game. Shin Megami Tensei has always been a leaning on the harder side, but this one is more of like the traditional. So the original Persona games and the original Shin Megami Tensei games were like this first person dungeon crawling, moving block to block, walking around, and then doing first person kind of like Dragon Quest battles. Um, but I did play it. I don't remember if I beat it or not. I got deep into it though. Um, and I remember like going looking through facts and stuff like that, trying to come up with the best like fusions and stuff. And I remember enjoying it, but I don't think I ever actually beat it. So hopefully that will change with our playthrough here. How about you, Matt? Any history with this one?
Pretty short history. I had a similar interest in the Mega 10 games, and really similarly born out of Persona 3 and Persona 4, which I adored. Um, I I don't remember when I first heard of this game. I wasn't. I've never really had a Nintendo console when it was at peak relevance for its life cycle. So most of these I've picked up. I never. I did dabble with the DS a little bit with that weird wedge shaped DS. But what I have now is the 2DS XL, which I also got kind of late in its life. I think the Wedge was the 2D version of the first 2D version of the 3DS,
Yeah.
maybe. But either way, I had those both kind of later in its life, so I definitely wasn't around when this came out. I know we talked about it at one point, at least a year or two ago, talking about other Mega 10 games, and you described this one, and based on the description of the story or what's happening, I got really excited. And then you mentioned that it was a first person dungeon crawler, and I was like, oh, I don't know, like, uh, uh, I'm not sure I can handle that. Just being totally honest. So I never picked it up. I actually thought I had it until we went to start this game and realized I didn't have it, so I had to buy it on Amazon, I think.
It's a used copy.
No, I couldn't. I looked on eBay, and the used copies are 100% of the price of a new copy.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't find a used copy for less than $60.
Jeez. Okay. Never mind then. Well, there you go. So,
So yeah, so I never really touched it, and even when you described it, I was a little apprehensive. Um, coming to it now for the first time, I still had a little bit of that apprehension, but if it's absolutely terrible, we'll have to make the bad call to give up. But I did want to try this because the premise of it is so interesting, and it's been a while since I played a Mega 10 game, and again, I keep thinking about Persona 4 and how much I loved it. So this one is, while I have also read that it's on the harder side of the Mega 10 games, I've also heard that it's on the better side.
yeah, that
So
was that.
worth a roll of the dice and more than just the way we did it, I guess.
Yeah, that was one of the things that kind of got me. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of a cool premise because it's a premise that I wasn't used to because I was used to Persona, playing high school students who were going through weird stuff. And I know I described it to you last week whenever we were discussing what we were going to play, and I said I got some really big vibes of Sphere, if you remember. Um, and those of you who don't know, Sphere is a book and movie written by Michael Crichton or Krishon. Is that how you pronounce it? How you pronounce that? Say it again. Crichton.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and I absolutely adore both the movie and the book, and I know Matt, you do as well. And I guess it's because of the suits that they wear. It's also you're you're in an unknown area and weird stuff is happening, and you don't know stuff that you can't explain, kind of thing. Um, but it still definitely has that Mega 10 feel to it. So
Yeah, I wanted to say it has a bit of a sciency vibe, but it's not really. It's not like they're doing science. Sometimes they spew a little bit of scientific mumbo jumbo, but it's definitely trying to be a little bit less fantastical.
yes,
Less on the fantasy side and more on the all right. There's a scientific explanation, and it's now something about multiple dimensions and yada yada yada.
yeah,
Um, it reminds me a lot of Annihilation, where you've got this area that happens to just have appeared. Weird things are happening in that area, and it appears to be expanding. So we're going to enter the area to try and figure out what's going on.
yeah.
Basically, exactly the premise of Annihilation, where they're entering the Shimmer.
So yeah, basically, I can't tell you what year this happens because I don't think it actually tells you. It's 20 something X classic video game future year. But
Like some goofy looking ships.
yeah, but we it's Earth, and it seems that a lot of bad things are happening. Obviously the things that we hear about now, civil unrest, um, overpopulation, wars, uh, climate change, all that good stuff. And in the middle of Antarctica, there is an anomaly that shows up. It starts off small, and then we start to notice it on the satellite imagery. It's starting to grow. So it's like a circular ring that is slowly expanding. And the way it's expanding, most of the world scientists believe that if it continues, it will take over the entire planet, especially engulfing the planet. Um, they don't know what's in it. They don't know where it came from, but they know that they'll probably need to stop it. They sent drones in to try and see what was inside of it. The drones were destroyed, but they did capture some images, and we see basically we're seeing it through the eyes of kind of like the United Nations, and the images they see are like weird. So we're in the middle of Antarctica, right? And when they go inside this anomaly, they see a city, like a red light district. And there was
Only not in Antarctic City.
yes. And then there was like God, I can't remember all the images they showed. You remember, Matt? One was like a
Um,
shopping mall, right?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was like a
Like
shopping
decayed, right?
mall, a cave. It started off simple, cave, then it went to like a shopping mall, and then like a city, like a red light district of a city, and it just kept getting weirder and weirder. There was one that was like a crumbling civilization, like a city that was in ruin, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" And they're like, "This can't be right." And it's like these are the images that the drones caught before they were destroyed. So the United Nations gets a crew together, and they're going to send them in to investigate this. They have dubbed this Schwarzwelt. I don't know how you pronounce that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah,
Schwartzfeld is what I've been saying in my
Schwartz
mind, but
Schwarzwelt.
yeah,
Um,
but I have no idea if that's right.
yeah, I'm gonna call it the Schwartz.
Sounds
um,
like Spaceballs.
you're right. But so they were part of this investigation team, um, led by the top scientists, researchers, and military, um, because well, you never know what's in there. And our mission is to investigate it, see what this is, what's causing it, and how do we stop it from engulfing the entire planet. So um, we play
Yeah, the
as
premise is it's a simple premise,
right.
and it gives them a lot of freedom. Um, just based on kind of first impression of that, though, it doesn't necessarily tie personally, as far as I know, to anyone, right? So it's just random. It could have been any people, anywhere. It's not, I guess, not meant to be a personal thing. It's just here's a thing that needs to be investigated, and you're part of a team to go do that.
Yeah. The one thing they
So
do push is it's all different nations coming together. So you've got like I know that they mentioned some people from Germany. They mentioned some people from Japan, obviously, um, United States. So apparently the character we play as is American, and the other character that we talk to a lot. Again, I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Jimenez? Jimenez?
be Jimenez,
Jimenez?
I think so.
He's American because he mentioned he's like, oh, you're another American like me. Um, and so it's like a whole world United Nations thing being sent in, the best of the best, basically.
Stargate.
S- Yeah, there you go. So yeah, we're sent in. There's four crews with four ships. So the
Each one
planet,
on a drop ship that looks like an APC.
yeah, it looks like an APC. Um, these ships are supposed to basically thrust over the wall. So it's like a big wall, and nothing can get through it. Um, so we're going to try and thrust over it and then see what's inside the middle of it. In doing so, um, our crew or our whole fleet gets attacked. It looks like it gets shot by lightning. But they're saying it looks like a pinpointed attack. It's not just random lightning that's attacking us. And so we all crash land. Um, I think ours was called the Red Spire. Is that what it was called?
Sprite, I think.
Red Sprite. The Red Sprite. Um, and we all had different color code names. So our we crash. We have no defenses because our they had a shield. This happens in the future, so we have shields. Um, the shields went down. The reactor for the ship itself went down. We're kind of out here in the middle of nowhere, screwed.
So our red sprite ship was the only one that made it through, right?
No, the
Every
others,
other one was shot down.
yeah, we made it through, but everyone was shot down. So all of them are inside the circle, but we don't know where they are. We were the only one that wasn't shot down. So yeah, um, first order of business. Excuse me. Damn. First order of business is get the ship back up and running. Unfortunately, I guess during this little crash landing that we had, the bay doors opened up, and there are these invisible monsters that are attacking the crew members. Um, and the oh yeah, what was it? It was the four people sitting at the couch. So when we crash, we kind of black out, right? We almost, I think we die. They resuscitate us basically. But when we're dead or knocked out, we're talked to by these four mysterious individuals sitting around a couch, and they were saying, "Oh, you're not supposed to be here, but we're going to entertain this." Um, and mysteriously, it's almost like they sent us back to see what we could do. Um, and
Again, reminds me of Persona
yeah,
when you have your dreams and you're talking to the
Igor
I
in
don't
the
remember what he's
Velvet
called.
Room.
Igor.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
so it feels a little bit like that. Um, and so yeah, the we have our suits. Our suits are known as the Demonica. It's actually an acronym. So, um, but can you hear that air condition that's going off or no?
I can't.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna let it go then. You may hear a hum in the background. Sorry, this hotel room's horrible. But yeah, so the our suits are like kind of state of the art. They protect us from the elements, but they also can analyze the area, and we can install new apps and stuff on them. And one of the new apps that we get is mysteriously installed on us that allows us to see and communicate with these invisible entities. We didn't create this app. Uh, it was like a inner voice installed it for us, so we can use it to our advantage. It allows us to see these monsters that are attacking the crew, and the monsters themselves identify themselves as demons, so they are demons. And of course we know the term demon, like they mention it a couple times in the cutscenes, like they call themselves demons. Are we in hell? Because that's the only thing we can reference is demons come from hell. And that was kind of that was what was interesting to me the first time I played this was, all right, we're a research and military group, modern day, with some advanced technology going up against ancient evils. You know what I mean?
A little
So,
different than high school kids.
yeah, a little different than high school kids. So it kind of comes off. Shin Megami Tensei's always kind of came off as modern day eldritch horror. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like I know Shin Megami Tensei, the original, was about this kid who created this computer program that summoned demons. Like it was basically, oh, I created a modern day version of the Necronomicon, and so it's kind of like that. Um, and I've always found that very interesting. Um, so we have to fight off the demons. Um, This game is a turn-based role-playing game, so when you go into a battle, you're taking turns. And it's not really taking turns, it's more of choose what all of your party members are going to do, and then based on the stats, we'll see how it plays out. So I
Yeah, I
want you,
noticed that the order changed a lot
yeah.
depending on which demons I had, who was alive.
hmm So, fighting, if you're fighting three guys and you choose all of what your party members are going to do and then say commence. And depending on how, your agility is, your demon's agility is, the enemy's agility is, people will go different turns and stuff like that. So it's not like I do a turn, they do a turn, I do a turn, they do a turn. It's more of like based on stats. And
I assume also that there's still like a summoning time for each spell. Is that true? So like, is it just about who has priority, or is it about the length of buildup you need to cast a spell? Because it seemed, for example, like the healing spells would usually go first, but not always.
yeah, that's a good question. So from what I understand, because I am kind of following a FAQ a little bit, because the last thing I want to do is put 2 hours in this game and then die, and then I'm like, well, that's 2 hours wasted. From what I understand, anytime you use an item, because you're the only character that can use items, your demons cannot. When you use an item, that always goes first. Um,
It's good to
as
know.
as far as spells go, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the priority works in that. There's a lot of back end stuff that we're not, privy to.
I'll be
Um,
interested to work that out because I feel like a lot of these battles were hard enough that it mattered. Like if I had a guy get hit one extra time, they might have died.
yeah,
And so I'm trying to stack up these heals in such a way that I can get as many attacks like per turn out as I can, but also I need to make sure I'm healing enough that I don't lose my actual characters because that was, not outside the realm of any given fight. I might, if it's also it doesn't seem like it's clear who they target. Some of their, if you're fighting three demons, sometimes it seems like all three of them will hit the main character, and sometimes they'll spread out their attacks. So I couldn't necessarily bank on somebody not being targeted and just letting it slide for another turn or two.
yeah, yeah. That's a good point. I don't know. Um, but part of the strategy is so I should say um, a little bit later on in the story, you get the ability to talk to demons, and they all have personalities. And it's a lot of it's based on alignment as well. So this game has an alignment system, and the alignments are lawful, neutral, and chaotic. There are certain demons that's their natural alignment, and they don't want anything to do with you if you're not their alignment. So if you're a law person and you talk to a chaotic one, they're not going to talk to you. But you can converse, so that's kind of a staple in the old school Shin Megami Tensei games was conversing with demons to have them do things for you. They can give you money, or they can give you an item, or they can heal you sometimes. Or the big thing is you can have them join your party. Um, but in doing so, they'll want something in return. So if you ask a demon to become part of your party, they'll be like, okay, well, give me some of your life. So they'll drain your life, or they'll give me some of your energy. They'll drain your magic points, or take your money, or take an item from you, that kind of thing. Um, but once they join, they don't leave. Um, and you can use them in your party. So you always have your main character, the human, and then you can have three demons in your active party. But you can keep multiple demons in stock, basically. And that stock increases depending on where you are in the game and stuff like that. Um, and if you, let's say one of your demons dies in combat, you can use one of your turns to summon another one from your stock and bring them in. Um, on
I
top,
didn't really know that until I actually needed it, and I was really glad to find out that was the case.
yeah, you lose your turn when you do that, and you can only do it one at a time. So let's say you had two open slots in your party, you can only summon one demon at a time. Um, but um, uh, there's another mechanic, and it's a lot like in Persona. So a lot of people know Persona. In Persona, if you hit an enemy's weakness, so let's say they're weak to fire, and you hit them with fire, it does double damage. Um, in this game, if you hit an enemy's weakness, you can do a co-op attack. So let's say an enemy's weak to fire. I hit him with a fire attack. The person who attacked, along with party members of the same um, alignment, can do an extra attack. They'll just do a big, like, all-out attack and hit the enemy. So it's kind of advantageous of you to hit the weakness, because you can get basically a free hit in. You can't take another turn, but you can get another hit in. That usually does a good amount of damage. Uh,
Especially because you're already targeting the weakness. So I feel like the original attack is boosted as well. So
yeah,
it also is where a lot of the I feel untapped complexity for me is so far because I've done a bunch of demon fusions and stuff, and I've been building up my roster a little bit. Um, but it's only recently that I've been able to start pulling over, using some of the cores and pulling over specific abilities.
yeah,
Knowing that there was going to be some specific fire attacks coming in this game, in this boss, first big boss that we fight.
hmm
I focused on building up a little bit of my fire immunity on my team, and I like the idea of building up a stable and be like, all right, I've got two really good electric guys, and I've got one or two good fire guys, and so if I find myself in a situation where I'm overpowered, I can maybe swap in the right team for the job
yeah,
rather than what I've been doing, which is just taking my strongest demons and having them be my base party for the
yeah.
for the generic like dungeon crawling.
It's a lot like Pokemon in that sense, where you kind of have to spread out your elements to have handle the situation. But yeah,
Because
and
it's a pretty big swing. I mean, maybe in some games it doesn't matter all that much whether you're aligned or not with weaknesses and strengths, but I had a lot of strong like physical hits do only 1 or 2 damage when a good magical attack, for example, might do 30.
yeah,
And so you almost you can't get by with the I mean, you could get by not exploiting weaknesses, but you couldn't really get by if you were stuck only having what the enemy was strong against or
right.
resistant to.
So that's the big thing, is that there are some enemies in this game that are just like strong against physical attacks. Well, every character has a physical attack, so you can't just rely on brute forcing it. You have to kind of set it up properly. Um,
Especially when those physical attacks are usually the free ones. So most of the time I'm using physical attacks.
hmm So yeah, most of the physical attacks are 0 MP, while your elemental attacks and big damage attacks are taking magic points away from you. Um, and yeah, you did hint on it. You mentioned that there's also fusions, so you can take two demons and combine them together to make a new demon. And that demon could be a lot stronger, have different attributes, and then there's on top of that you can carry over abilities from the two demons that you fuse if you choose to do so. Um, so there's a lot of complexity in there. And sometimes you'll get a demon that's completely different from the other two demons that you've had. And that was in Persona. Um, so like,
I find it pretty fun because you're not making the decision of like, do I stay with my early demon that I've leveled up a bit, or do I start using this new one? Because you can just kind of roll them together and have your super demon.
right. But then
Although,
you also
similar
lose a
to not,
party member.
yeah, exactly. And what you get out of the end of that fusing might not be exactly what you want, or even as good as the one you started with in some ways.
Right.
I feel like technically they're usually or always better. Um, but similar to sometimes as the demons level up, they're like, "Oh, do you want to upgrade or do you want to mutate this ability into this other ability?"
Yeah.
One time I said yes, and I lost my lightning attack, and I got something absolutely pointless.
Hmm.
So I'm like, all right, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that mutation.
Yeah. That happened a couple of times with me, and I would actually go on my phone and look up what does this attack do. It's like, oh, it
It's not like it's
poisons an
just
enemy.
going from like level one lightning to level two lightning. In that case, obviously, upgrade.
Yeah.
It's completely changing into a different ability that may not be better.
Yeah. And the issue is, and this the Persona and Shin Megami Tensei have this issue, is that debuff abilities, I wouldn't even say debuff abilities, status element abilities, have no effect on bosses, and that is bullshit. That's one thing I've always liked about the uh, Legend of Heroes, like Trails of Cold Steel and stuff like that. Anybody can be affected by poison. Anybody can be affected by sleep or paralysis. And they built the game around that. Because half the time I never take those abilities because when am I going to put an enemy asleep? I would
Exactly.
rather,
I did try some of those on the boss.
yeah,
I tried poison and I tried a attack down style debuff.
yeah. Some of the, like those debuffs will work, like the attack down and defense down and stuff like that. But the status elements never actually work on a boss, and that pisses me off to no ends. Because boss fights turn into who can DPS the fastest. That's what it is. That's what they all revolve around. It makes the boss fights just like monotonous, but also stressful because there's no strategy involved. It's just like I hope I leveled up enough. That's all it is. So
I guess at least you've got your elemental bits here to add a little bit of variety. But you're
yeah,
right, you don't have your full tactical arsenal at your ready.
exactly. So yeah, now that we got most of the mechanics out of the way, there's other mechanics too. There's a crafting system in this game where you can search for materials, and you'll also get materials for killing demons. Um, and
Use that to buy new armor and swords and guns and
mhm. So there's a whole crafting aspect to this game. There's a lot here, um, but back to the story. Um, we have our commander, Commander Gore, who he's giving us our orders and stuff like that, and we go and after getting the ship um, back in working order, um, we need to go investigate outside. So this first area, which Antilia, is that what it's called?
yeah, Antilla or Antilia.
Yeah. And it is what you would expect Antarctica to look like. You're in an ice cavern, right? Of course, it's filled with demons, so you're not used to that. But yeah, you're exploring this area. And like I said, you come back and forth to the ship to, you got a new upgrade. You can search for forma, which is the materials that you can use to craft stuff with. But the big thing we have to go do is there's a distress signal coming from another ship. The blue something. I can't remember what it was. It's the one that Jimenez is on. Jimenez is on. Um, and so we have to go find it. And so we're navigating this first floor. Uh, and one other aspect of this game is basically filling out a map. Um, there's I would say it's random battles, but it's not really random battles because you can see when you're about to get into a battle. The more you walk, what's that?
And you? I didn't know you could see that.
So at the top right of the screen, you can see the search feature, and it turns from blue to yellow to red. And when you go to red, then the next few steps you're going to get into a battle. So you can kind of judge when you're going to get into another battle.
Oh, interesting.
Um, but yeah, so we're filling out a map. It starts out, there's nothing on the map, and as you move around, you kind of fill out this map. Um, one good thing that I will mention about the Redux, the 3DS version, is that there is a single save that you can keep for when you're out in the field. Originally in the game, you had saves points, or you could save when you're back on the ship. Um,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
that's huge.
yeah. Um, and so, yeah, you have a field save that you can do. Thank God for that, because if not, I would be so mad at this game. I did die toward the end of this playthrough and lost probably about 30 minutes of progress. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, it was to a point where like I had captured multiple demons that was in my party and I was looking for them. And I'm like, oh, right. That happened when I died. It was not
I
good.
think I died once and lost about 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
then I think I died one other time and lost like 2 minutes. But
Well, that's when I started using the field save because I had to. But yeah, um, we find the other ship and Jimenez is there. Jimenez, and he's the only survivor of the ship. Um, we do have a boss fight here, and I would say a boss fight, but it's more like a mini boss. This guy wasn't that difficult for me.
I thought this was going to be the end boss, though, because you don't really beat it. It just kind of disappears, right?
Yeah, it runs
Doesn't it like
away.
run away?
hmm But you remember, it
So,
comes back and attacks Gore
yeah.
and kills him, unfortunately. So yeah, the commander goes with us on that one. He's not he's not actually in our party, but he's there with us. And the demon's there. He fights the demon, and the demon runs away, then comes back and sneak attacks Gore and kills him. Um, but we have to fight him off, and we rescue Jimenez. We bring back Gore, and we have kind of like a little memorial for him before we move on. So the thing we're taking orders from now is actually a onboard AI named Arthur that is telling us what to do. It has calculated everything and um, obviously doesn't have the best bedside manner. This tells you, hey, if you want to do this, if you want to survive, you got to do this. We have no other options. Do this.
Darn
And
robots.
yeah, and I mentioned the alignment, right? We can change our alignment because there are times in this game where we're asked questions and we can choose what to respond with. We start at neutral, and the more times we answer with a lawful response, we start moving up toward lawful. And if you do more chaotic answers, you move toward chaotic. Um, so it's really all dependent on what you answer. I'm trying to stay neutral as much as I can. Um, we'll see how that
I'm not
happens.
necessarily trying to do that like actively, but I just feel like some of the other characters are pretty intense, and I feel like this mission needs somebody who's level-headed and neutral.
Sure. Well, obviously, Jimenez is your chaotic friend. I don't know if we've met our lawful friend yet. Um, but I'm seeing similarities to this in Shin Megami Tensei 4. I played a good amount of Shin Megami Tensei 4, and you had two friends. One you could tell was the lawful person, and one was the chaotic person.
Like
So,
those devils on your shoulder.
hmm um, So, and Jimenez is not a bad guy. He is more of like, I'm done with this mission. Let's get the hell out of here. I don't want to get eaten by a freaking demon, basically. So, after we come back, Gore's now dead. We're taking orders from the AI. The first thing we need to do is get mobile again. The ship, we got the power back on, the defenses are back on, but we can't move it. So we have to go find a reactor. Uh, so where's the best place to find a reactor? Well, we know of another ship that is out there, so we have to travel back to it. Um, from there, we also get a reactor, but we also get the onboard AI from it. It survived long enough to save all the data that it had collected, take it back to Arthur, and Arthur analyzes it, and we realize that there are multiple layers of this anomaly that we're in. And this is where they kind of get into the whole there are parallel universes. So the one we're on right now, Attila or Attilia, however you pronounce it, is just one of them. And they're kind of all stacked on top of each other. And there's pretty much only one way to go. You go through this hole, basically. It's a, I guess the best way to put it is a black hole that shoots us into another dimension. Um,
Yeah.
and that's the only way we can go. We're kind of stuck here. So the only way to go is forward. So we have to do that. Um, Doing so, though, we have to get we have the let's say the opening, the hole, the black hole, if you will. It sees our ship and us as kind of like a foreign object, an invader. So it's going to reject us if we try to travel through it. So we have to mask ourselves as part of the Schwarzwelt.
This is where they got really scientific and said things like, "Oh, it's like oil and water, and we just need to get a little oil on ourselves so we can pass through."
Exactly. So we know in this dimension that we're in right now, there is something deeper in that we could possibly use on the ship to basically trick the hole into thinking we're part of it. So we have to go down. We have to go down into the first floor basement and the second floor basement. And I was like, oh, first floor basement, which is big, huge even.
Yeah, these take a while to get through.
And I was like, okay, it's got to be around here somewhere. And then I found another staircase. I'm like, oh my God, there's a second floor to this. So I continued on down.
I actually forgot halfway through that we were looking for a, what do they call it, like a strong energy signature. So
Yeah,
like, oh, we're just exploring the inverse tower here. We're just gonna keep going down, and that's what we're doing, exploring one level at a time and just progressing, and that's all the game is at the moment.
yeah. No, we're looking for something. Um, and when we go down into the first floor basement of this area, the world changes. We're now kind of like in a completely like destroyed city. So we went from an ice cavern to just crumbling cities. Everything's on fire, and it's like a hellscape.
It does feel a bit dreamlike because it's literally like you walk through a door and then you're in the hellscape.
hmm That's exactly what it is. It's almost like different worlds are colliding with each other. So, yeah, traveling through here, go to the second floor finally. This is where I died. Um, there's a couple of scripted fights that we have to do. Those guys, the Oni guys, the brutes, wrecked me to begin with.
These are the ones where I had my regular physical attacks were doing like nothing.
Yeah, They were because they're resistant to physical attacks. So
Makes sense. They're huge.
yeah. So
I do have one on my team though now, so
well,
pretty
look
happy
at you.
about that.
I do not. But yeah, I died here, lost like 30, 40 minutes of progress, and I was like, oh my God, and I stopped for the day and played a little bit of Breath of the Wild because I was like, I don't want to go back to this right now. But I
Change of
came back,
pace.
yeah, I came back to it the next day and actually finished where I needed to be. But regardless, um, we finally found the energy source, and it is a very large demon that looks like a minotaur, I'd say would be the best way to describe it. And it looks gigantic, right?
Yeah, it's
Like
huge.
it's huge. It takes up the entire screen. Um, and it poses the question to us: demons are actually the real heroes, aren't they?
Yeah, to which I said, no, you're wrong.
Uh, I think that's what I said too. I can't remember. Um, but yeah, this boss, I went in at level 9, um, and I went in prepared because I read a fact, and I don't care. I am playing this on normal, by the way. You can choose to change the difficulty. There are 3 difficulties. I chose normal to start with, and I already told myself if I get frustrated with this game, I will put it on easy. But I am trying on hard, or trying on normal, and I did beat this boss on normal, but I did it by the skin of my teeth. I had like 8 demons. I went through 7 of them, and it was me and another demon alive at the end of it when we beat him.
I
And
was in a pretty similar boat.
if it was one more turn, I was dead.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, yeah, that's how
I
close
could have
it
made it a
was.
few more, but I was definitely slowly losing.
hmm But beat him. Um, and one thing I mentioned it before we started recording. I have to mention it here. I get it. Your party members died, and you shouldn't be rewarded for that. I'm pushing 40. I don't have time. Let my dead party members get experience, please. I'm begging you. Because I beat that boss, and me and my one demon leveled up like 3 times. And I was just like, why couldn't the rest of my party get that too?
At least something.
Yeah, so it's old school. I get it. It's old school. That's how it was. Modern games kind of do that now. Modern games, hey, you didn't have this character in your active party. We're going to give them some experience. Pokemon did that a long time ago. They had the experience share, and it's a godsend. I'm sorry. I am not hardcore. I'm not hardcore for you hardcore players out there. I just want to beat a
Which
game.
I don't know all the details, but I do hear that Redux is easier. I mean, it makes sense that the field save is huge. Um, are there other things that you know of that make this version a little bit more user friendly and a little less hardcore?
Let's find out. I'm on the Wikipedia page for it right now. Let's take a look and see. Let's see here if there's anything in the Wikipedia page.
Tell you what,
Development.
it's not terribly easy to understand what you need to say to these demons to win them over.
Yes, that is.
Because I had a lot of conversations. So you basically any given conversation, if they're willing to talk to you, because some of them they just say no because you're not aligned correctly. But for the ones that are like neutral or aligned, basically it seems like you have to make 2 consecutive choices, conversational choices that are in the right direction to make them happier, and then start your negotiation. Which sometimes the act of starting the negotiation is what turns them off.
Right.
I don't know if there's a way to know how to talk to the demons other than just to have tried and failed many times, because I probably, if I have 8 demons in my party, I probably started 30 or 40 conversations. And so I probably have I probably have like a 20% or less win rate on the demons.
Mm, yeah, me too. Let's see here. It says, in terms of new content, the Strange Journey Redux all revolves around a new character, Alex, and a new dungeon area called the Womb of Grief. While playing through the main storyline, you'll encounter Alex as she tries to murder the protagonist. Oh, okay. At this point in the game, a new dungeon is unlocked for exploration, accessed independently from the game's original dungeon areas. Additional floors of the Womb of Grief periodically become available as you progress to the main game. These new floors offer a slight bump in challenge from the original dungeon mazes, both in enemy strength and dungeon design. Progressing through the Room of Grief will not only shed more light on Alex and her goals, but also reward the player with some new demons and new sub-apps not found in the original release. Also holds a handful of new EX missions. Um, Many of these challenging battles will place a limitation on the player as you are tasked to defeat a certain enemy group. There's also 3 new endings to the game. Um, there's new sub apps and commander skills. Uh,
That seemed like it would be an easy thing to build out. I did pick up my commander skill that allows you to give, I think, all of your team an attack advantage.
I got that one too. Apparently, originally there was a limitation on the amount of sub apps that you could have equipped at a time. Now there's no limitation. They can also be equipped anywhere on the field. Um, there are several new sub apps with new bonuses. Uh, New commander skills. All new presentation with full voice acting in Japanese, of course.
Tell you
Uh,
what, seeing a big boss demon minotaur speaking Japanese was a little off-putting, or
right.
not off-putting, but surprising.
The original Strange Journey only held 2 total save slots, and saves could only be made either in the home base or a command room or various terminals scattered around the game maps. Strange Journey Redux has 20 normal save slots and a single field slot that can save anywhere. There's 3 difficulty options now, so those weren't in there originally. More demons can be held by the player at one time. By the end of the game, you can hold up to 18 demons at the same time. When fusing a new demon, using a demon source, the player can directly choose which skills are transferred, rather than being random. When a demon wants to change one of its skills, you can now see what it will change to before mutating. Ouch. That sucked on the original version. When performing a special fusion, component demons can be directly added from the Demon Compendium rather than having all the demons in the present. There's 30 new demons. Sub-apps, player level, and map progress can be carried over to a new game plus mode. A demon can be changed in the battle party during combat in 1 turn instead of 2. It used to take 2 turns to summon a new demon. Oh my god.
Jeez.
Uh, when retreating from battle, the chance of success is given as a percentage. You can heal your party at the home base for free rather than for money. You used to have to pay to heal your party members at the
On the ship?
base.
Yeah.
The thumb pad can be set to either move the player or slide the lower screen. You can browse the maps of any floor rather than just the one you're currently on. Battle animations can be set to default speed or double speed or skipped entirely. You can dash in the dungeon in the forward direction. I didn't even know you could dash. You can set a toggle to have a final check before starting selected battle actions. You can set a toggle to have doors automatically open with a forward movement rather than pressing the A button. If there is an open slot in the 4-person battle party when a demon is recruited, they will automatically join the battle party rather than going into the reserve. When a demon is in your stock, reaches analysis level 3, they will offer their demon source in the same battle rather than the next level up. If a demon's weakness is found before analysis level 2, it will be remembered in the Demonica's memory. and a handful of text and localization tweaks. So there's a lot there that I would have never wanted to play this game if they hadn't changed it.
Yeah, that's tough because all that stuff just seems like you could set. I mean, you could make that stuff part of like a extra hard way to play it, but it shouldn't be the baseline.
Yeah,
I mean, some of that stuff is difficult. I even thought that just the first person part of this was going to be difficult. It turns out that hasn't been off putting at all. I think maybe on a different system it might have been, but on the 3DS with the second screen where I can constantly see where I am in the dungeon
yeah.
and that it marks doors and it has icons for everything, it was pretty easy to navigate. I never felt like I was lost.
So I will point you to another game that this game is kind of like, and that's called Etrian Odyssey. I've played a lot of those games, and imagine Strange Journey, but hardcore mode. So, Etrian Odyssey is set up in a way where you have the map on the bottom screen, and it doesn't automatically fill in. You have to fill it in yourself using the stylus.
Oh,
So if
jeez.
you want to remember there's a door there, you have to mark, hey, there's a door here. You basically are
I mean, I
making
guess you
your own map.
can. That's not so bad on the 3DS because you can do it while you're going, right?
True, you can.
It's almost like having your scratch pad and paper. To be honest, there's a lot of games I want to take notes for while I'm playing. I just don't because I don't have the pen and paper there.
Sure.
And the next time I play it, I might be in a different state, so I probably won't have the pen and paper to review the note, even if I had taken it. But the idea that you could take it right on the system that you're playing is kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I think this was co-developed by the team that made Etrian Odyssey,
It may have been.
which
Like,
then makes sense if there's some similarities.
yeah, Etrian Odyssey is really cool too. It's hard. It's definitely a difficult game, but yeah, Etrian Odyssey allows you to like recruit members in town. It's almost like a old school like RPG, like a D&D kind of thing, where you get this guy and he's a dragoon and he has these abilities and he's the only guy who has these abilities. It's got that kind of thing. It's actually it's really reminiscent of D&D. But yeah, after beating
I
the
also
minute,
just can't imagine how much longer this game would have taken to play if you couldn't do a field save. Because
dude,
I think I would have been so much more nervous of losing an hour of playtime. I would have only gone a little farther than I had last time. Then I would have circled back, gone back to the ship and saved. And
right?
then I would have pushed out a little further. And it would have taken me 10 or 12 loops to get through it rather than two or three.
Yeah, yeah, I had forgotten how hard that game actually was. Because man, just even thinking about that gives me nightmares. But
The
yeah,
game it isn't terribly easy. I can see how you could still consider it hard. But with that list of quality of life improvements that you just read off, the game's not off putting even if it's difficult.
sure.
Right? I feel like even if you just take a look at some games, I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm making money. I'm spending it all on health potions. Here you have the free healing on the ship. You have demons that can heal you. You have potions that you can make and take with you. You have a couple of different places within each dungeon that you can heal
Hmm.
for cash, which you shouldn't be running out of because you get it after every single fight. So you've got like four different ways to heal at least. So that, it gives you some flexibility there. If you've got money, you can spend it on healing. If you don't, you can go back to the ship. If you've got demons, the only thing I feel like I'm running out a lot of the time is draining my demons of MP,
Hmm.
and I don't have a very easy way of refilling that.
Well, you can purchase MP items from the lab if you wanted.
Or I think the full heal on the ship replenishes all MP as well.
It does. And when you level up, if you level up in battle, um, you automatically go to full MP and full health.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. After beating the Minotaur boss, um, we find the energy source, which we then use to basically mask the ship. And we pass through the hole, the gate, and end up in a new area, a new dimension, which is they call it Boots,
Yeah.
and it looks like they say it looks like a red light district of a city. It looks like some weird nightmare escape, if you ask me.
Kaleidoscopic Funhouse. I
Uh-huh.
only looked at the first. I only took about 4 steps into Boots and then stopped.
Yeah, but that's where we stopped. If we continue on with this, we may have to do a dimension of recording because I looked at the FAQ and Boots is double the size,
Oh wow.
if not more. Looks like there's 7 levels.
Dungeons.
Yeah, 7 floors of this dungeon.
I was progressing through the first part fairly slowly, I'll bet, because I did have a couple of points very early in this game. I just sat there and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get a demon. And I should have, but there's a couple of points where I'm like, I can go in. I don't feel like I'm able to do the things I should be able to, and they were all fairly easy, so I was able to get through it. But I feel like just going a little bit slow, and I did a few extra loops to make sure I was being a little conservative on not trying to press too far in and get killed.
Hmm.
Um, because even just this first section, I'm at just over 7 hours, I think.
I think I'm at 5.5.
I knew I was going a little bit slower than the average, probably.
Sure. Well, we'll see how it goes. Um,
I'm also in the flow now.
yeah, yeah.
Like I at least understand as far as where we are right now. I feel like I've got a handle on everything. And at least the things I don't have a handle yet on are the kind of things that I assume I'll be perfecting throughout the course of the entire game, which is like optimizing fusions and cultivating a roster of fused demons so that you've got the right group to go at any time.
Yeah.
That sounds cool to me. I'm building up all these cores that I apparently should be using and not
Yeah,
saving.
yeah. I've been saving them too. But yeah. Uh, I feel like the good rule of thumb is when you make it to an area and the like each floor basically when you reach a new floor, the good rule of thumb is to maybe do do 2 laps through it before trying to move on to the next floor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a little bit of level grinding there. But yeah, I don't think there are any emails. I'm gonna double check and see. I don't see any. So if you would like to send an email, it is drew@ztgd.com. You can also tweet to us. I am at the ML Fury, Matt is at REMGS, and the podcast itself is at ZTGD Phoenix Down. But that's where we're going to stop. Um, thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. Send in those emails. I know Dustin was going to be playing along with us, possibly. I know he said Street Fighter and Diablo have kind of taken hold of him. So, but he did say he wanted to play along with us. But yeah, that's going to be it for us. Until next time, I am Drew,
On that.
and we are out of here. You guys have a great week, and we'll be back next week with the continuation of Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey.